On the afternoon of February 28, 2025, what should have been a routine diplomatic meeting at the White House transformed into a decisive moment with profound repercussions for the American economy, particularly for the automotive industry. U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with expectations of finalizing a crucial agreement on rare minerals, essential for the manufacture of electric vehicles and advanced technologies. The meeting began with apparent cordiality when Trump welcomed Zelensky at the White House entrance with a handshake and a casual comment about his attire. However, the atmosphere deteriorated rapidly when discussions moved to the Oval Office. Tensions escalated when Zelensky expressed doubts about Trump's diplomatic efforts with Putin to achieve lasting peace, while Trump accused the Ukrainian leader of gambling with World War III. In a particularly heated moment, Trump declared, "You're either going to make a deal or we're out." Following this public confrontation, Zelensky left the White House without signing the expected minerals agreement, and a planned press conference was canceled. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent later commented that Zelensky had committed one of the great diplomatic own goals in history and questioned what could be done to get the agreement back on track. What was at stake in this frustrated deal was much more than a simple diplomatic formality. Ukraine possesses 22 critical minerals essential to various industries, including automotive manufacturing. The agreement represented a strategic opportunity for the United States to diversify its supply chain for these critical resources, reducing dependence on China. Currently, China dominates the global supply chain for these minerals, refining almost 90% of the world's neodymium and praseodymium, key components in electric vehicle manufacturing. This concentration of processing capability creates vulnerability in the supply chain for American automakers transitioning toward electric vehicle production. The U.S. Department of Energy has assessed that critical mineral demand will need to increase by 600% by 2040 to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. This projection underscores the strategic importance of securing diverse and reliable sources of these minerals for the automotive industry's future. Critical minerals such as cobalt, neodymium, and dysprosium are essential for high-performance magnets used in electric vehicles and wind turbines. Without access to these materials, the American automotive industry faces potential production constraints as it attempts to ramp up electric vehicle manufacturing. The failed deal with Ukraine represented a missed opportunity to secure an alternative supply chain for these vital resources, potentially hampering the industry's ability to reduce dependence on Chinese processing and refining capacities. This situation is further complicated by the fact that the minerals agreement could serve as a form of repayment for military aid provided to Ukraine, an approach that aligned geopolitical interests with American industrial needs. The collapse of the Ukraine minerals deal occurs against the backdrop of Trump's broader automotive industry policies, which may compound challenges for American manufacturers. Trump has previously proposed significant tariffs on imported vehicles, including a potential 100% tariff on cars made outside the United States. In a March 2024 statement, Trump warned that if he were to lose the 2024 election, it would be a bloodbath for the U.S. auto industry, emphasizing his intention to impose steep tariffs to protect domestic manufacturing. More recently, Trump has advocated for fair trade in the automobile industry, arguing that if other countries charge tariffs on American vehicles, the U.S. should reciprocate. He has also pledged to roll back EV mandates established during the Biden administration, which effectively required nearly all new vehicles to be electric by 2032. Additionally, Trump has promised to implement 25% tariffs on all products coming from Canada and Mexico on his first day in office, a move that would significantly impact the integrated North American automotive supply chain. These policies, combined with the failure to secure alternative sources of critical minerals through agreements like the one proposed with Ukraine, create a complex landscape for the U.S. automotive industry, particularly as it navigates the transition toward electric vehicles. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has warned that Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada could harm the state's auto industry, noting that 70% of all auto parts made in Michigan go directly to neighboring countries. The immediate consequence of the failed minerals deal is continued uncertainty regarding American access to critical materials needed for advanced automotive manufacturing. Without diversified sources of rare earth minerals, U.S. automakers may face constraints in meeting production targets for electric vehicles as demand increases and China maintains its dominance in the supply chain. This development may reinforce Trump's focus on tariffs as a primary trade policy tool to protect domestic manufacturing. In the longer term, the combination of supply chain vulnerabilities for critical minerals and potential tariff-induced price increases could slow the U.S. transition to electric vehicles, affecting automakers who have invested heavily in this technology under the Inflation Reduction Act, which attracted more than $65 billion of investment in the U.S. EV supply chain. The confrontation between Trump and Zelensky demonstrates how diplomatic relationships directly influence industrial policy and economic outcomes. The minerals agreement was intended to show economic interconnection between the U.S. and Ukraine, according to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Instead, its collapse highlights the challenges of securing critical supply chains in a geopolitically complex environment. German political scientist Thomas Jaeger from Cologne University suggested that the heated argument was a calculated move by Trump, describing it as reality TV star Donald Trump doing exactly what he does, trashing someone on camera. Whether strategic or spontaneous, the outcome remains the same: a missed opportunity to diversify critical mineral sources away from Chinese dominance. As European leaders, including British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, reaffirmed their unwavering support for Ukraine following the confrontation, the geopolitical fallout continues to evolve. Zelensky has indicated that his relationship with Trump can be repaired, telling Fox News, "I'm not sure that we did something bad," though he expressed regret that the exchange took place in front of reporters. The impact on the automotive industry will be felt beyond the boundaries of corporate boardrooms. For workers on assembly lines in Detroit, Pittsburgh, and other manufacturing centers, uncertainty about the supply of critical components represents a tangible threat. As American automakers try to compete globally in the race for more advanced electric vehicles, access to minerals like neodymium and praseodymium becomes as crucial as technical know-how or consumer base. The automotive supply chain integrates tens of thousands of components from global sources, and any disruption in access to essential materials can cause production delays, price increases, and consequent loss of competitiveness in the international market. The complexity of the situation is amplified by the fact that, beyond the confusion with Ukraine, U.S. relations with China, the primary global supplier of these minerals, remain tense. Existing tariffs on Chinese products, implemented during Trump's first term and largely maintained by the Biden administration, have already increased input costs for American manufacturers. Any additional escalation in these trade tensions could exacerbate the challenges faced by the automotive industry. Furthermore, the potential imposition of 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico threatens to undo decades of North American supply chain integration facilitated by the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and its successor, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. This integration has allowed American automakers to share production costs and maximize efficiencies, maintaining global competitiveness. Dismantling this system could have far-reaching consequences for the industry. For consumers, these diplomatic and trade tensions may eventually manifest as higher prices for vehicles, particularly for electric cars, that already face affordability challenges. As manufacturers absorb higher costs for critical components, these increases inevitably transfer to the final price. This could slow the adoption of electric vehicles by the average American consumer, potentially undermining the broader climate goals of the United States. The intersection of diplomatic tensions, resource security, and industrial policy illustrated by this episode demonstrates the complex landscape that automobile manufacturers must navigate as they plan for future production and investment in an increasingly uncertain global environment. The failed meeting between Trump and Zelensky is more than a diplomatic incident. It is a symbol of the intricate connections between geopolitics and the real economy, where decisions made in White House rooms can eventually determine what happens in car dealerships and garages of ordinary Americans. The coming months will reveal whether alternative arrangements can be made to secure critical mineral supplies, or if the American automotive industry will need to adapt to continued reliance on existing supply chains dominated by China while potentially contending with new tariff regimes affecting North American integration. What is clear is that, for an industry already in the midst of a historic transformation toward electrification, these diplomatic developments add another layer of complexity to an already challenging landscape.